fix. So the Flow implemented the fix into the Python version, and then the C++ version from xFangFang got updated to include the fix, and now all of the pwn loaders also have the fix included. So if you were having the issue before where you weren't able to load the exploit, definitely give it a try now, because this should work now on all PS4s. So no matter which PS4 you have, you should be able to load the exploit. Obviously, certain PS4s may take longer to run the exploit. You may still need to adjust the timings in the settings, but apart from that, you should be able to get the exploit loaded now, no matter what PS4 model you have. So that is a welcome change, and this is being confirmed by Zeko as well as EchoStretch, who actually has one of those problematic PS4 Slims, and he confirmed that with this update, it has been fixed and he's able to load it on his PS4 Slim. So it's good that we're all on the same page with loading the exploits. We're able to load it no matter what PS4 model. So next we have a new WebKit vulnerability that affects the PS4 and the PS5, originally noticed by Chameleon. Zeko also put out a site to actually run the vulnerability and see if your PS4 or PS5 is vulnerable. And also it's on ES7in1, so EchoStretch's 7in1 site. Can head over there, es7in1.site. And you can also run it from there. There's the CVE test. And basically what you're looking for is the web browser to crash with not enough free system memory. So if you get the not enough free system memory error, that means that your PS4 or PS5 is vulnerable to this WebKit vulnerability. Now, it is just a WebKit vulnerability right now, not a full WebKit exploit. And there have been some other, WebKit vulnerabilities in the past that have not actually turned into a full WebKit exploit. And even if we do get a full WebKit exploit, that's just a userland exploit. It still needs to be chained with a new kernel exploit to create a jailbreak for the PS4 or PS5. So according to Zeko, the PS4 appears to be vulnerable from firmware 10.0 up to 11.02, and the PS5 appears to be vulnerable from 6.0 up to 6.80. So all of those firmwares should be vulnerable to this WebKit bug, but we still need to wait and see if it turns into a WebKit exploit. And then, of course, we'll have to wait for a new kernel exploit in order for it to become useful. So moving on from that, Lightning Mods released a teaser for the next update for ItemzFlow, and he is going to be addressing the one complaint that I had for the patch installer functionality, which made it not quite as good as the original patch installer Homebrew that we had from 0s199. If you're not caught up on this, the latest update from ItemzFlow added the ability to install retail game updates, just like the old patch installer Homebrew from quite a while ago. That's no longer working. So you can now install older game updates for your retail games from within ItemzFlow. However, it did not tell you if the update that you were installing was compatible with your firmware, so that is now being fixed as of the next update that's going to come out for ItemzFlow. And Lightning Mods released a couple of screenshots showing the difference. So you can see here, if a patch is available in your firmware, you'll see this green text at the bottom that will say this update supports your firmware. And if you select an update that is not compatible with your firmware, it will say not compatible with your current system firmware, and you'll get that red icon over the image as well. So yeah, that's just kind of returning that same functionality that we had in the patch installer Homebrew, and it's now all included here in ItemzFlow. So it's basically a complete replacement now for the old patch installer Homebrew. So that is good to see. So that is another update. Now this ItemzFlow update is not released yet at the time of recording, but I'm sure it'll be released soon, along with all the other bug fixes that Lightning Mod's working on to correct some of the issues that people found with the 1.05 version. So we also got the release of GoldHEN Lite version from Chameleon. Of course, this was created by Systra, but Chameleon has got permission to release it now. It's only for firmware 9.0 because it was made back in January 2023, so it must be quite an old version of GoldHEN. So according to Chameleon, it's a very basic version of Hen with some small patches included, and he's had it since January 2023, but Systra let him share it. And of course, if you're somebody who is struggling with stability on GoldHEN, I believe it's a lot better now, but back in the past, there are certain people on certain consoles where GoldHEN would crash quite often. I guess it probably depends what you're doing with the system. But, if you're still having crashing issues with GoldHEN, then maybe give the Lite version a try, because it has less features. It may be less prone to crashing. But, yeah, you'll have to test that out yourself. Next, we have DeathRGH coming out with PSLAN, a test version of PSLAN. So here he says that we're doing some tests on PSLAN over in the PSLAN Discord. This allows anyone to play LAN matches across the world without a PC required for the setup. You will get all the instructions in the Discord. Playtests will be on Black Ops 3, firmware 9.00 and 11.20. Now, this has already ended. This was just a basic test to, I guess, prove out the system to make sure it's going to work. So what is this? Well, we had something similar to this way back in 2018 called COD Online. I believe this is probably, an iteration of that. So it was a payload so that you could run, and then you could hop on Black Ops 3, and you could find, other people's games who were hosting on LAN. It would basically take your LAN connection and broadcast it over the internet so that you could see any other person's LAN game that they're hosting who are also running the same payload. And you could join each other. And it was really great because you could get big games going because I actually had discoverability. You could discover other people's games. And that is the biggest problem with other solutions that have come out since then, like Hamachi. The problem with things like Hamachi and Xlink Kai and XBS Link is that there's no discoverability. You essentially have to, know the IP address or the network name of the person that you're trying to connect to, and you need to be in direct contact with them. You can't just search for a public match and see who's hosting. It doesn't have that functionality, and that is what something like this could bring us, is the discoverability, so you can actually find other online games. Now, the limiting factor for something like this is that the game actually has to have a LAN play option, of course, in order for this to work. And there are a good number of PS4 games that do have LAN play, but, there are also quite a few online games that do not have access to LAN play. Something like Red Dead Redemption 2 Online and GTA 5 Online don't have a LAN play option. But for those things, there could be private servers and other stuff that could be set up. Like with Fortnite, we have the EasyFN, a private server that we can play on our jailbroken PS4s. So there's other ways around that. But, for games that do have LAN play support, and the vast majority, if not all of the Call of Duty game series has LAN play options, you'd at least be able to play all of those games and more using this. Now, right now, this test version is only for, Black Ops 3, but I'm hoping they will expand it to other games so that essentially any game that supports LAN play, you'll be able to play online using PSLAN in the future. So yeah, I really hope they stick with this and this actually comes out because we don't have any other way to play online on our jailbroken PS4s apart from the private Fortnite server and the Hamachi, which only allows you to play with 1 or 2 of your friends. So this would be great to actually have something that you could really rely on for online play and have that discoverability so you can find other players to play with. We got close back on 5.05 with COD Online. It's just a shame it died and it never went anywhere. So I really hope that this will actually happen. And and it doesn't just get, dropped again after a few weeks of hype. So finally we have an update to the PS4 Cheats Manager version 1.2.2. This is actually a couple of weeks old at this point. However, it has added a few interesting features, the ability to disable and re-enable cheap files. Disabled files won't be loaded by GoldHEN, so sometimes you can have 3 or 4 different cheat files for the same game. So, they would all show up in GoldHEN one by one, and if you had an older version of GoldHEN that didn't allow you to switch between different cheat files, it would just select the first cheat, and that would be the only one, the first cheat file, and that would be the only one that you'd have access to. You'd have to delete that one to have another one load. So with this, you can just disable any ones that you don't want, and then it will only show the cheat files that you want on GoldHEN. And he's also added the option to change the default URLs for cheats, patches, and plugins in the settings. So when you select the option in the settings, it will give you the first link, which is for, I think, cheats, and then the next one is patches and then plugins, and you can change that to a different link. So if you have some other provider of cheats and patches that you would rather use, you can put their link in there instead and get all of their cheats, patches, and plugins. So that is the update there to the PS4 Cheats Manager. And finally, we have the new Elden Ring DLC. We have a backport available for jailbroken PS4s and PS5, so you can run them on your console.